And we are live.
Ready to go?
Yep, we're good to go.
I want to thank everybody for joining us here tonight. We're going to call the special call meeting here on July the 13th at 6 p.m. to order. I appreciate everybody joining in with us. I think we've got everybody present. That's absolutely wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and turn everything over to Becky so we can move on and maybe we can get out of here in a short period of time. Go ahead, Becky.
Okay. If everyone would please stand for a moment of silence, and then that will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Miss Kathy Starnes.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, I ask for your approval of the minutes from our June 22nd meeting, 2020. First off, is there any corrections that need to be noted? Okay, with none being said, I'll go across my screen to ask for your approval for the minutes on June 22nd.
We need
Dr.
a
Barnes?
motion.
Oh, sorry. Yes, probably. That'd be good.
Also move that we approve them.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, so now we'll go through the approval. Dr. Barnett,
Yes.
Ms. Starnes,
Yes.
Mr. Fulbright,
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter. Yes. Mr. Britton. You're on mute.
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Abernathy?
Yes.
And myself is yes. Okay. Adjustments and approval of the agenda. At this time, I have one amendment to the agenda. It is to amend unfinished business number 1 to change it from discussion of the evaluation instrument to the approval of the evaluation instrument. Are there any other changes that need to be made?
Would like to add on, I guess it'd be new business number 2, discussion of the tennis courts at Maiden Middle.
New business number 2. Tennis courts at Maiden Middle.
Yes.
Okay. Any other changes or adjustments or additions? Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the adjusted agenda as presented, changing number 1 to the word approval and adding number 2, the tennis courts at Maiden Middle.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Starnes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Britton. And again, we'll go through the approval process. Leslie,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
and myself is yes. Thank you very much. At this time, I turn it over to Dr. Stover for his superintendent's report.
Thank you, Ms. Britton. Good to see everybody this evening. Just want to give you a quick update on a couple of things. First is driver's ed started today, virtually, synchronously. So we've got kids underway there. We are moving forward with, we got our guidance from DPI and our sanitation practices. So we'll start driving students hopefully next week. So we're excited about that. Our our athletic practices at our schools, I should say workouts, have gone well. No unsanitary or unhealthy conditions at this point. So we're happy about that. And then we're really excited about graduation. And as you guys know, although it's not the traditional graduation we all would have wanted, but our high schools have done a magnificent job working with our Department of Health and Human Services. Doug Roney leading those folks. They have a great plan for their kids, and we meet all the requirements. So it's going to be very similar to St. Stephen's. We have the document where if you guys would like to come in our lobby area, unfortunately, we won't be able to go in the gym. We want to give all the kids as many tickets as they need for their families. You'll notice that myself and Dan and Carla and Marty and Deanna and Chris, we're going to go to different ones and make an appearance at all of them. So we're excited about that. I do hate that I'm not going to see them all, but under the circumstances, I think our schools and staff have done a great job, and I look forward to a great event in the next couple of weeks. So we appreciate your patience and all the, I'm sure you guys have gotten a lot of calls and questions. And so thank you all for everything you guys have done to help us with these things. But again, we're going to be off and running. The biggest thing I think probably of this is the mask situation that the governor has, required on our campuses. So I talked to Sheriff Brown about the mask, and we are asking people to wear them. And so they're aware that we're asking people to wear them, but you're going to see in our graduation plans that we are giving the kid and the principal the opportunity, if they both feel safe, to have a picture made without the mask and say social distance as well. So again, I think we have a good plan there to still meet the requirements, but at the same time, I think graduates deserve a picture definitely of their faces. So we're gonna do that safely. So again, we're excited. If you do want to come in, we invite you to any and all of them, whatever you can attend. If it's just for 30 minutes or 5 hours, whatever you'd like to do, we'd love to have you. There was one other thing before I turn over to Carla on the finance report. We are going to give you the data from the staff survey, and Deanna's going to go over that during the remote learning section. Okay. Carla?
Hey guys, I hope you're doing well this evening. I don't have a whole lot to report other than, and this is really good news, we received our first round of state allotments from DPI, so things are moving rather quickly. I don't think we'll be waiting on a state budget. Well, now I say that. Is it really a state budget? It's pretty much the same allocations as last year, except they have said that all teachers will get a step on the salary scale. So depending on where you are on the salary scale, you might get an increase. Now I think like steps 15 through 19 all make the same. So unless you were moving from step 14 to 15 or 19 to 20, you wouldn't get an increase, but the lower end of the scale folks will definitely get an increase. I believe there is a bonus for certified teachers in the legislation that I believe it's payable in October, and I think it's $350, but still, that's better than nothing. And our retirement rate was increased, and our health insurance rate actually decreased a little bit. So DPI is moving forward with our state allocations. We have submitted our federal planning budgets, but they haven't been approved yet. So technically we don't have any federal money yet, but it's coming. And DPI usually allots the state funds before they get around to federal. So I'm not nearly as worried about having access to federal money this year as I usually am, since we've already gotten our first round of state allotments. So that's all good. And on a positive note from closeout, I was just looking at our numbers, and you have to keep in mind that we'll still have some bills coming in that will be applied back to last year. But right now in local, we're, we managed to save $1 million. Now, I think we'll probably have to turn around and reallocate that for COVID supplies because we have about $100,000 on order already for the COVID stuff that we need. And I'm really keeping my fingers crossed that we receive some additional funding to offset that. But in the meantime, we've got to pay for them somehow. So we're ordering supplies. Morgan Williams is working on that. But I think it's good news that we were able to save a little last year because this year is so unknown and next year is even scarier. So that's where we are with the budget right now. Do y'all have any questions for me?
Thank you, Carla.
Thank you.
I do want to say one other thing as we work and progress towards Governor Cooper's announcement later this week. So everything's starting to come together, maybe as good as it could. We did our staff surveys, and now we sent out our parent surveys. And so now we'll look at that data. You guys have it. But then the governor will announce, and then we can come out with what plan A and plan C are very simple. Plan B, we can announce what that would be if we are in a plan B situation for that 50% model. But as soon as we get at the governor's announcement, we also have plans of asking some teacher groups to come in and look at that 50% model if we have to do that, to get very specific in what that instruction is going to look like. We are very optimistic that we'll have a safe plan for our staff and students. And I will say this, our HR survey that we sent out, we have a lot of folks who are planning on coming back face-to-face and feel comfortable, are willing to do that for the kids. I don't want to put words in people's mouth, but they're willing to do that for kids. And we have a lot of, we already have a lot of parents who've responded. We have a lot of, it's like a seesaw, a lot of people who want to come back to school. And we have got a good many that only want remote learning for their kids. And as you guys know, we are going to be thankful to be able to offer K-12 virtual, and our folks who have to stay at home because of a pre-existing condition, they'll be able to continue their occupation and job and teaching virtually to serve our students who need that. And then our face-to-face we'll have here, and hopefully keep everybody in the best health that we can. But so anyhow, the plan, I don't want to say the plan's coming together because that's probably very, very optimistic, but we're progressing. So a lot being done and still waiting on the final result. And that's all I have. Sorry, just want to keep everybody up to speed with what we're doing.
Okay. So at this time, the public hearing and public comment section will be led by Ms. Crystal Davis.
Hi there. As you know, in this time of COVID-19, we publish prior to the board meeting that comments will be received, can be received online, and public comments and comments at the public hearing. And then, of course, Marty has determined that no one in the board meeting that's attending there wishes to make a comment, but we have received 3. Now I can read those to you. I've sent them to all of the board members. I forwarded the copies, and I can tell you that much like Dr. Stover described, there is a seesaw from the comments. We have one parent who has a situation where she's caring for elderly parents, which is the grandparents of her children, and also a husband who is 100% disabled. And she is requesting, that she be allowed to, her children be allowed to continue with remote learning. Another comment was relating specifically to a survey that was sent out, and the person actually stated that he believed the school system was trying, by asking questions about the 50-50 plan, he believed the school system was trying to reduce the quality of education in schools. I don't think that was the point of the survey. The point was to get more understanding, and Dr. Stover, correct me if I'm wrong, from the public about nuances relating to that specific plan. Is that correct, Dr. Stover?
Yeah, that's correct. That's what's happened is the folks who have been following it and have read, or at least the highlights of our Lighting the Way document, have really good idea what's going on. But if they hadn't looked at that document, it's probably foreign to them. So I'm actually sending out with Stephanie more user-friendly, very nuts and bolts. Here's plan A, plan B, plan C, in case there was any confusion. But yeah, that was not the intention. The intention was to give people input on what that model might look like, because we have to have a model.
Right. And specifically, his need was for students who are higher achieving students. He feels like his student is being penalized by not being able to participate in person in school. And then the other situation was the other comment related to the need for the commenter's child to be engaged in person, because I think of attention issues and that particular needs of that student. Remote learning is very, very difficult. So in her comment, she was requesting that the board reopen schools. So each of you have copies of those comments. I will be responding, or Dr. Stover will, via his, what he just described to you, via his comments through Stephanie and posted on the website. But I just wanted to let you guys know that there are comments similar to what Dr. Stover described, across the board. Any questions about those? Okay. Those are all the comments that I've received. So at this time, the public hearing regarding matters on the agenda and the public hearing, or the public comment sections, are closed.
Okay, thank you, Crystal. Okay, we'll move on. I just want to say this, as far as graduation, I would love to be at every one of them. And like Dr. Stover said, as far as rules and guidelines, you're welcome to go. I personally cannot keep a mask on more than 10 to 15 minutes. If I do, I get sick. So I won't be at any of them. And discussion with my family, they felt it was best, not to attend. And Deanna understands probably some of that situation, how one of my granddaughters must feel during this time. So we're being very, very careful. Now, tonight, I'm going to go ahead and make this comment before we get into our evaluation. David, you probably you wasn't with us then, but we had divided up into groups and went over the evaluations, and the board members, I thought, did a great job pulling out what they felt like they could evaluate on the superintendent with the superintendents, with the board members, and separating that out. And I've went through it a couple more times, and I thought, I want to tell you, y'all did a great job, and it's really, really appreciated. I don't remember who was in what group. I do remember meeting with Donna at Scotty's. I thought we had a great meeting, and I'm sure everybody else did too, from what I understand. So with that, we will move on, and we're going to go into the unfinished business, and hopefully approval of this evaluation is something that's been going on forever and ever and ever. Dr. Stover is really kind of itching at the bits, I guess, to get this thing over with and see what people think of him. And at this time, when you do your evaluation, remember what our administration is going through right now. This is really tough. I would hate to be in their shoes, and we're lucky to have the administration that we've got. So, gonna open up the approval of the evaluation instrument for any questions or comments. Anybody? No question, no comments? I will move for a motion to approve the instruments as each one of you has received and had a chance to look over. So I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion from Mr. Abernathy to approve. Need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Leslie. Okay, we're gonna go across the board. Becky,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
and Glenn, yes. Thank you all very much. And, I forgot to mention that we really need these things back in a week. Crystal, you still with me? Where you at, Crystal? There you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah,
Are we
they got,
back to you or sent back to me or both?
I think probably both is fine. I'd like to be able to compile them as soon as possible. The idea is if they go out tomorrow, then when do you think, how long do you think you guys would need? Now, the problem is we got to send them out to principals as well and directors.
Well, I think we're gonna put the 20th. We get them back on the 20th. That's give time to go through them and get them ready for the 27th.
Okay, Dr. Stover, you think that's enough time for the principals?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay, that's perfect. If we'll send them back in, we'll send it out in survey format tomorrow. And then we'll also send you an email reminder and all that.
Crystal,
Yes,
will ours be in survey format as well, or will we have a pencil and paper
you'll
version?
be in survey format.
Okay.
Yeah.
That original one was,
Oh, I know.
still, yeah, okay.
Good.
I'm hearing somebody. I don't know if we, okay, must be in the background. Okay, new business. Approval of remote learning. Deanna.
Good evening, Chairman Fulbright, board members, and Dr. Stover. I'm going to present my screen. Hopefully you guys are going to be able to see that. And what I'm projecting first was a request to share with you some quick data related to the reopening schools certified teacher survey that we sent out, certified teachers and TAs. Please let me know if you cannot see my screen. We did send this survey out to begin the conversation of if Governor Cooper did decide on Plan B for the reopening. We wanted teacher and teacher assistant input first into the process to see mostly what they would be interested in. And as Dr. Stover mentioned, we now are starting to move on to getting parent feedback into the same model in case we have to go in this direction. So I want to thank Marty Sharp for putting this presentation together quickly today, and I do appreciate that. So on slide 2, just keep in mind what we asked. We asked if they would be more interested in something more in lines of option 1 with an AABB day with Friday remote for all students. So in this case, students in group A would come to school on Mondays and Tuesdays. Students in group B, the other half, would come on Wednesdays and Thursdays. The positives of that is we would have the opportunity to see students every week. Then in option 2, it's more of a week at a time. So one half group of students would come on a week while the other half are remote, and then that would flip-flop the next week. There are some advantages of option 2 as well, definitely instructionally and how you build that plan. Option 3 is more difficult, but in theory has some great strengths, and that is choosing which students come to school to not exceed 50% by student priority. And what I mean by that is whether it's, within grade span, students are prioritized based on things such as their academic need, childcare needs, and then ease of the content being delivered remotely. So there wouldn't be a set, all third graders come on these 2 days, anything like that. Prioritized students would come more often, and less prioritized students would obviously come less. So those are the 3 options. So to run through the data with you quickly, K-12 certified teachers altogether, you can see that option 1 was almost 60%. They prefer the AABB day with Friday remote. You can see the percentages of option 2 and 3, 2 around 25 and option 3 around 17% of certified teachers. When we break that down, we were curious to see by level the difference. Elementary school teachers, you can see for option 1, almost 56% preferred that. And a little bit more than all teachers together preferred option 2 at 27%. And again, option 3 was pretty low. For middle school, almost 67% of teachers preferred option 1. Middle school teachers made a lot of comments about the need to see middle school kids every week to make sure they are instructionally engaged in what's going on, and that social aspect of being around their peers at times for that social emotional piece. High school teachers, 61% preferred option 1. That's the AABB, while the other 2 options were both right around 20%. So as you can see that number back in that first slide for all teachers, overall, they definitely prefer by a pretty good margin the AABB model. Teacher assistants were right in line with that. Almost 59-60% of teacher assistants preferred the AABB model, and their comments were very similar to the teachers, with options 2 and 3 being around that 20%. The last question that we asked was just for K1 teachers, because we do have a goal. If there's any way possible, we would love for K1 students to come more often. In fact, hopefully coming 4 days a week. We're trying to figure that out now. So our question to teachers was, if we were able to do that, as a teacher, would you prefer it? And you can see that 84% of our K1 teachers prefer for the students to come 4 days a week instead of 50% model, that they would prefer that. But we still have 16% not interested in that, of the students coming that often. To conclude this, go ahead.
Would you just mind explain the purpose of the Friday virtual day? I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think probably the board knows, but maybe for the public who are watching.
Absolutely. So that remote day being on Friday showed up in the themes of the open-ended comments from the teachers and teacher assistants. And there were a couple of themes, but let me start with that one. One of the comments quite a few folks made was, would it be better to consider Wednesday, the middle day of the week, as the remote learning day, because it would allow for better cleaning? And we did consider that, and in extensive conversations with operations and Mr. Moore, he feels quite confident in the cleaning that's going to occur every single night, that having a day in the middle was not necessary if instructionally it helped folks more to have that at the end of the week. And when he said that, the light bulb went off with me that, okay, if that's the case, then why don't we try to do our best to help our teachers and our parents and students? And so Friday makes a lot of sense for teachers, because they're going to be juggling a lot. When you think about remote learning and face-to-face learning happening within a week and trying to manage all of that through that LMS system, teachers need some time to be able to do that. And Fridays are a great day because they can offer office hours, because all students would be remote. Students could finish up assignments and work. Teachers would have time in the afternoons to grade, to plan, to get things ready to post by Monday morning at 8 a.m. again, and have the time they need to honestly just save them a little bit, give them some kind of perk for the work that they're doing. And Friday is a great option for that. Honestly, for my own self, I'm extremely worried about if we move it to Wednesday, teachers having to work on Saturdays and Sundays hard. I know they already do, but we're going to be adding to that plate if they're teaching all day on Friday and then expected to have everything ready to go again by Monday. I believe it would be a great addition for the teachers to know they had that Friday. I think also for parents, it would provide some flexibility on Fridays as well. So that was the purpose of trying to stick with the Friday and getting that feedback.
One of the major themes that I would add, with our comments, and we broke them out into themes. The biggest theme we got from our staff was childcare issues. What are we going to do about our own kids? And so we sat down, and I think we figured out a probable plan for childcare. Now, keep in mind, you guys know this, childcare is also an issue for our community. So if we had to go to a 50% model, Mr. Gibbs in HR is working on this to set up teams. We met this morning to figure out the financial impact. But when you look at priorities in this district, safety and sanitation are number one. And now instructionally for our kids to get back and kids to be successful, we know parents and our staff have to have childcare. So that quickly moves up to number two. And so now we have put a plan in place to offer childcare, COVID-19 childcare, each one of our sites for our employees. And that would be at no cost. And then we would still run Quest at our sites all day for on the days that the kids weren't there. If indeed, of course, that might be more demand than we have supply, but we feel it necessary that we meet the parents' needs on childcare and our own staff. You mean our own teachers can't teach if they're trying to manage their own kids. And what that does is that takes away from the other people's kids. And so as I talked to teachers last week in my Google Hangout, I let them know that we were working on several ideas. We had a lot of positive feedback on that. Now, the only negative of this, if there is a negative, and that is the dollars and cents. And so our calculations, we'd have to budget approximately $900,000 to do this. But it is, now that's only if we're in a 50% model. I'm hoping we're not, but if we are, then we're going to need something for our folks. And I believe that's a good way of helping our staff. And the other part of this is if you are a employee and you have childcare issues, you now qualify for federal leave through December 31st, which means that you now qualify for 2/3 of your pay and means you stay at home. Well, we still have to pay that. And then we'd have to pay a sub to come in and take care of that. So I'm having to pay twice. So the right thing by employees, we believe, and the right thing to cover that is to find a way of childcare, not only for our employees, but for our community. So again, we're just working through those ideas, but I want you guys to know where we're at on how we're trying to, what we do with those comments. So boom, we have all these comments. Now what do? We just don't let them sit there. We try to make plans revolving themes around those comments. And Deanna, you want to talk about the other two themes that you pulled out?
Dr.
Yeah.
Stover, before you go, Ms. Finger, on the AABB schedule and the 50%, are we going to give some type of priority number or priority, or just identifying parents who have, say, maybe an elementary, a middle, and a high, so that we sync them up that they're all attending either the A or the B days, so that we don't have parents juggling, okay, little Johnny's going today, but Susie's going tomorrow, so that we all have some kind of, uniform.
Yes, that is correct, Ms. Starnes. And those plans are in progress now, trying to work that out. And we are that's how we're spending our time, working on that AABB model to have a draft that we can start to get input from teachers. And do you like it? What do you not like? What would work better, kind of a thing. So yeah, that's the goal, is that that'll line up. I don't know if it will for every single parent, but we're hoping it does as much as possible.
I just want to make sure that, we're on the record saying we understand that that's a problem.
Sure.
We're not in a chair somewhere above everybody else and don't have our feet connected to the ground on what's going on with our people in the community. We know what they're facing. We face the same issues, and I don't want us to be insensitive to everybody's crisis. Because everybody's kind of got a different thing going on depending on where you are at this point in time. So I just wanted to make sure we were on the record that we are thinking about those things in advance of preparing whatever schedule we come up with.
Absolutely.
Ms. Finger, I have a question also.
Dr. Barnett, don't be offended. I think she wants to answer your question.
I'm not sure. We'll give her a chance to get a drink of water.
I got her all choked up. I apologize.
Whoa, goodness, sorry. So sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, that was fine. No problem. I certainly understand and agree with those K-1 teachers who said they'd like to have their students face-to-face. Those children need to be in there 4 or 5 days, whatever we can get them a week. But I'm trying to wrap my head around how would we still keep that at 50%? I mean, meet the 50%. And I'm sure you've got an answer. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it.
Dr. Stover, you want to speak to that?
Yeah. So of the school capacity. So what we're used to is classroom capacity. So what I've talked to principals about today is when you're looking at capacity for your school, it's not your classroom capacity, because that doesn't factor in your media, your gym, and your cafeteria, those type of things. So if we put a very simplistic equation together, is that we want to look at the numbers that are, and in fact, we added pre-K too, but we've got to wait to see what we get back from DHHS to see if they would allow pre-K, because we got to follow their guidelines. But if you look at your pre-K, I looked at the numbers for every school. You do your pre-K, your K, your 1 full class, because those can only go up to 18 anyhow. And then, and by the guidelines, it says wherever feasible, to have the kids 6 feet apart in the classrooms wherever feasible. So that's very important. I think we need to use those guidelines and be very safe with them. But at the same time, I think we need to use those guidelines in the best interest of our students as well. So then you add we're really interested in looking at our EC clusters. Those kids really need face-to-face contact. You add those in, you add our child care like we talked about in our Quest program, and then 50% of the remaining students. And then we look at those numbers. Now, I did some preliminary numbers, and I believe we can come well in under what the 50% occupancy of the entire building would be.
Capacity is. That
Yeah.
makes sense. I understand. Thank you.
The other 2 things I just mentioned briefly in the comments from the teachers, besides childcare, concerned when they are on the remote learning days, would they be working in the building or at home? And that's the conversation or decision we'll have to make to align to Governor Cooper and the order we're under at that point in time as far as folks working. So we don't know the answer to that, but they did ask a lot about that in their comments. And then the third, they were concerned with no matter which way we go with the model, that they wanted to make sure EC students were prioritized regardless, that if self-contained EC students could be in class more often, which we had already considered in counting in that 50%, that those kids were definitely a priority no matter what. They needed to be in school to be able to continue to learn. So those were the other 2 things that showed up besides the child care in the survey. Any other questions about that survey?
No, I have a question for Dr. Stover.
Yeah.
Dr. Stover, in some of our buildings where our hallways are very narrow, will they be marked as one way only so that everybody's like, I'm thinking about St. Stephen's High, I don't think our construction will be done far enough to fix some of those problems that they have with and I think maybe Bunker, and one other of the smaller hallway schools.
So what we've talked about is not one way, but 6 feet apart on both sides of the hallway. So if you picture a controlled transition of when students are exiting and going down the hallway, we haven't worked out the details of that. It could end up being one way depending on the need of the school. Like, for example, we're not going to have a one size fits all on that because like
Right.
you said, some hallways are different than others. But we have already talked to some principals, specifically Mr. Stocks, the fact that they have a huge challenge at St. because of construction and how skinny their hallways are. So that would have to be a controlled transition. So you might have to dismiss, every other classroom at, this time, and then allot for a 10 to 15 minute transition before you start the next class, so you could keep the students social distance. So to tell you that we have an exact plan on that, other than marking it as we're supposed to by the guidelines, not yet, but I'm telling you, we're working on that, and that's a great question.
Again, I want the public to understand, we have thought through these things. We're very familiar with our facilities and our teachers and everything else, so.
And Mr. Moore and from Quest and now Jumpstart, and now as we have our specific sanitation guidelines, he and Morgan will be publishing our sanitation guidelines for the public as well. So they know exactly how we'll be cleaning, sanitizing our hands, and and one of those things we can add in there too is the things that Department of Health and Human Services has asked us to mark 6 feet and those type of things, and we would include that in there as well.
I did have one question for Ms. Finger on the survey. I don't remember the numbers at the beginning, but what was your return reply rate on that? Did you have a very good turnout for the replies on the survey?
We did. I don't have that survey up in front of me.
That's
Mark-
fine.
Marty
I can-
told me earlier.
If you give me just a second, I will take a look.
We can tell
I
you
was
what.
just I hope that they, the teachers and the TAs took advantage of that survey and, to provide as much feedback as they could. So
We were very pleased. I'll tell you
well,
too,
good.
the parent survey that went out today that Dr. Stowe was talking about, we are shocked at the quick responses. We're already
Good.
up to over 4,000 parent responses in a couple hours. Yeah.
Good.
Mhm. Yes. Okay. So Marty, you want to keep looking for that for a quick second and me move on, or you're ready?
Not quite ready. I'm having just a little bit of slowness on my end.
Okay.
I tell you what, I am right here though.
Okay.
It's just a tiny bit slow. All right, so we're looking at total responses. Come on. Well, my apologies. I thought I was there. We are at 1,009 responses.
Now
Did you
that-
catch that?
Yes, thank you, Marty.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
All right, so we will move on. If you have more questions, make sure you ask us. So we are now going to move to seeking approval on the remote learning plan. If you'll remember from last meeting, we did do a presentation on that, and you have the full document now that I hope you've had the opportunity to look at. We decided for tonight, Terry, myself, and Marty, that we did want to just point out 2 of the 17 elements we want to draw your attention to because it is the meat of the plan. Terry is going to review item number 3. If you'll look at that document, she will share her screen, and Marty is going to review item 11 with attendance. That's the only 2 we're going to touch on very briefly, and then we'll be seeking approval. So Terry will take it from here. Thank you, Ms. Hall.
Item number 3. Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Can you see my screen with the
Yeah.
mouse moving? Okay, so number 3 is the part of the plan that asks us to define and clearly communicate staff roles and expectations for remote instruction. And so one of the things that we had feedback from teachers stating that they asked us for a schedule for live instruction. That was something that was really important to them. So we did come up with bi-level, sort of a daily schedule on their request, with one caveat that if kids cannot be present, that they record the session so that as students were able to watch them, that they could come back and watch them. So what you'll see, I won't read this to you, but I'll just sort of show you the structure with the first example for teachers who are 9-12. So we started with just their daily schedule. So first period, second period, third period, fourth period. And then Monday and Wednesday, you can see the outline for their first period class, and then second period class, those are on Monday and Wednesdays. Then Tuesdays and Thursdays, they have third and fourth period class, and you can see the timeline here for their whole day. Well, for the class periods. So scrolling on down, you'll see that students throughout, or teachers throughout their day, they also provide asynchronous instruction. We know that's going to vary based on the type of instruction that's being provided, what the course content is. Teachers are going to provide office hours. So this again is the high school teachers, and we give a breakdown for their office hours. In addition to that, we have required collaborative meetings. We have staff development, different types of planning time for them. So the breakdown for time on that is here. And then a bit of a description about what happens during all of those times is also included. So that's sort of the structure that we have. And then if you scroll on through the next several pages, you'll see we then break it down by teachers in grades 7 and 8. With their daily schedule, K-5 self-contained, and then we get down to 3-6 where they're departmentalized. Beyond that, we also give a breakdown about different support roles. So for example, we give media coordinator information, the school counselor, academic facilitator, instructional assistants, and so on. It gives a little bit more information about how they'll be working to support remote instruction. So that was a high-level view of what they'll be doing on their day-to-day schedules. Do you guys have questions about the day-to-day schedule for teachers?
No.
Okay. Marty is going to come in and talk about attendance.
I have a question.
Okay.
If a teacher happens to be sick, what will happen?
So we have looked at different options for if there's a sub. We've also looked at options if teachers want to go ahead and record their sessions. So there's several different options, and just to be honest with you, remote learning really provides a great opportunity for us to do some things that we haven't been able to do in the past. So we would definitely look at a sub, but we also will be starting to look and explore some different pre-recorded options.
Thank you.
Great question.
Deanna, before you go on to attendance, let me ask a question about the high school schedule. What about those career and college promise classes through CVCC? Will those instructors still continue coming to the schools?
Currently, right now, Miss Lutz Carpenter, we, in our contact with them, they are currently planning pretty much all online classes for CCP, but we do have a Google Hangout with them this Thursday.
Okay.
And we expect to be updated, and they maybe have made changes. I doubt it. I feel like it's going to be mostly online for this fall, regardless of what we're doing. Yeah,
sure. And that makes sense. Thanks.
It's Thursday. Yes.
And I'm glad you brought that up too, because that is something, that's part of the Catawba Community College and won't be part of us. And that's one of those things where getting that message out about different rules for the different organizations, because sometimes that's hard on parents to understand. Why is there a difference between the college career promise ready and then there is my civics class? So I'm glad you brought that up, especially for our viewers who are watching, because that is really an excellent point.
Okay, so I guess we're ready for attendance. If I could ask Terry, if you could scroll down, good. Thank you so much for scrolling down. I wanted to start off with, one of the questions that we have to address is how our public school unit will actually track and report attendance on any of those remote instruction days, of course, including protocols and determining attendance, reporting system to use, and so on. So most of you know we have been a ClassLink school system for a year now, and we call it CCS Engage. That's kind of how we brand it. But part of what CCS Engage will do for us is actually provide opportunities for our teachers to see who has logged in and to actually be able to go as detailed as seeing apps and everything else. So what we wanted to do was kind of utilize that service and looking at attendance procedures with those who have online accessibilities. So I will share my screen real quick. I want to show you just a real quick example. I'm going to take over for Terry. And let's see. Hopefully you can, it's going to come in, and this should be an English 4 college prep class. I have blurred out the names. But as you can see, on March 23rd through March 29th, I could actually see what students have signed in to CCS Engage. So our thoughts are to kind of utilize this as our attendance. And I will stop and kind of go back to number 11. And I'm sorry, I'm having to juggle just a few things here. My apologies.
Just a few.
Yeah, it doesn't, and it doesn't help that apparently I'm pulling all the bandwidth out of this room. I'm going to share this real quick and go back to number 11. For those who do not have online access, or maybe for the day their internet goes down, what we are asking to do is we can count them present for the day if they meet one of the criteria below. A parent or the student actually contact with the teacher via email, chat, phone call, a teacher contact with, the reversal, a teacher contacting the parent via email, chat, or phone call, or in participation in any kind of synchronous or asynchronous instruction. And that could be, when we talk about synchronous, we're talking about, it could be a Google Meet like we're on right now. That could be checked off. Yes, the student did attend for this day. The asynchronous could be through our LMS, our learning management system. We could even pull data from that as well through a smartphone. It doesn't require, I know a lot of people have smartphones, even if they don't have internet access directly, or if they have issues with internet access like we do sometimes. We're asking that all attendance be reported by the teachers through PowerSchool by noon on the following day. We are asking that the K-12 homeroom teacher would be responsible for that attendance. And we do plan on sending this out to parents to make sure that they're aware of these procedures if we are, remote. And we're going to do that through phone calls, emails, social media posts, and website as well, clearly explaining, also giving at the school orientation sessions that we're looking at providing. So again, I go back to this is the remote learning piece that plan that we've had to develop for the state. This is due next week, I believe, July the 20th. We wanted to, again, we called the special meeting just to make sure that we were able to get this approved by our board before we submitted this to the state next week. So in saying that, and touching on those two additional, I'm just asking, are there any questions that the board may have? I want to make sure everybody can hear me. Everybody thumbs up. I'm having some weird bandwidth issues in this room. All right. It's the tech guy. He always fixes everyone else's problems except for his own. In saying that, not hearing any questions, we are asking for the board to approve the remote learning plan in order for us to move forward next Monday in submitting, or by next Monday submitting.
Okay, thank you, Marty, Deanna, and where'd you go to? Terry. Does anybody else, last chance, have any questions?
I guess I have a question, Glenn. I guess we'll know more at whatever phase we are in the governor's plan to kind of give us more direction about which way we finally have to go, correct?
That's correct. So Governor Cooper will tell us if we're in 100%, 50%, or all remote. And what
Okay.
the state has asked us to do is be flexible, because at any time that might change with the executive order or with the data for COVID-19.
So,
I
we're
think-
just,
I
we're
mean,
just following what we're told and doing the best we can with what we know at the moment.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm
And
sure
is
you-
it correct also that the first, I think it was 5 or 6 days of school, if when going back, they are requiring in person still? Is that, unless if they stayed otherwise?
Correct. The legislators have mandated the first 5 days of school be in person. And that would go against any remote learning that the governor would say to do, and or 50% say to do. So we have a little bit of a political quandary there, if you will. But again,
Right.
wait to hear what they say, and we will, like I've told everybody, when you work for public education, you got to do what you're told from the state. So,
Right.
yep.
What are we gonna do about the ones that first week that are just, very uncomfortable coming back that first week? Are they, you know,
Well, the good news for us is we will have our virtual academy set up. So if you and your parent decide that, if the student and the parent decide that in person is not for them because of pre-existing conditions, or maybe they're a better remote learner, then they will already be in our academy. And so we won't have to have them come in person because they're part of our online academy. Now, everybody else would have to come in according to the legislation. So unless something would happen with an executive order that overrode that, but I'm not sure that can happen. So I believe that if people choose the virtual option, that we have that handled for them to be safe at home remotely. But if they're in our regular school day, then they'll have to be in school as of right now, according to that legislation.
well, when will they have to sign up? What's the date that they'd have to sign up for their virtual learning?
Well, we talked about that today, and we were we're waiting on the governor, of course, but we were thinking around the August 1st timeline, but that also has some implication on transfer. So Mr. Moore is working on corresponding with our K-4 students who have requested a transfer, because there may be opportunities for them to get a transfer if we have more kids that are remote, if that makes sense. So right now, I think the date we landed on this morning was by August 1st.
But they could go remote and then opt out later to come back in person at a later date.
We are still discussing that. It will depend on our personnel. So if you sign up for remote, that means I've got to have a teacher for you remotely. So it would be difficult for us to ping pong back and forth. So, but at the same time, we also know that families change and situations change. So what we're going to do is try to navigate that to the best of our ability to meet their needs, but at the same time, we still have to make those personnel decisions. So the answer to that question is we're working through that, but I don't have a specific answer for you yet.
Thank you.
One more thing. Are any of our EC students medically fragile that this may impact their attendance or return to school?
Absolutely. That we have several medically fragile students, and whether or not their parents feel like they can come and be safe, and that will be what their IEP, their teachers know them best, and so they can work that out in the IEP, and to serve those students to the best of our ability with their needs.
Thank
Good.
you.
Any more questions? Okay. Okay, we need a motion to approve the remote learning plan.
I make the motion to approve the remote learning plan.
Thank you, Becky. We need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ron. Okay, go across the board. Donna,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Becky,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Glenn, yes. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Now time for closed session. We need a motion to go into closed session.
I believe you added new business number 2.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Becky. Thank you. Just to fill you in just a little bit, I got a call to go look at the tennis courts at Maiden Middle. And it's really an eyesore for the community down there. The community is really concerned about it. And after looking at it, I'm definitely agree with them. Spoke with Donna about it. She has to go down that community, and I think she gets hit pretty hard with it every once in a while herself. We do have an offer from one of the neighbors in the neighborhood that is willing to basically keep this place cleaned up. I'm concerned about it growing up and becoming a safety hazard with snakes and whatever that can get into this, all this tall grass and stuff. Spoke with Crystal, spoke with Dan, and I know liability could possibly be an issue with that. From what I understand, the town of Maiden is not interested in maybe doing something with it. I hate that we've lost Jody Rogers in the rec department down there. That's a big, big loss for the town of Maiden. And I'm sure Jody probably would have jumped at the situation, added to his rec program, but that's not going to happen right now. So
He would have.
maybe if we go ahead and let the community have a key to the gate with one individual, that they can keep it cleaned up with some type of form that they can fill out, that we are not responsible for any liability. Crystal, is that possible?
So you're talking about a community member, not our employee managing the distribution of the key.
Well, no, not distribution, basically just going in for cleaning up and you know. We have people that go on our school grounds all the time and use our school grounds for recreation purposes.
Yeah.
We know that.
It's possible. I didn't know that was an issue. We didn't get to talk about that, but let me think through it. I do have some concerns about liability and putting that key in the hands of someone else. You're saying it would be.
What we would have to do, I believe, in talking with Mr. Moore, is there's one gate that they could access that, one thing, you can't leave it unlocked. We know that this day and time, you just cannot leave stuff unlocked. So if this individual had a lock for that one gate and had a key, and also get Mr. Moore a key for in case he needed it, would that be possible?
It could be. I just need a little bit to think through it. And we would have, if you have somebody sign a release, then who's getting that person to sign a release?
Well, this brings up a second question then too. If you're going to do it down at Maiden Middle, then are you going to do it at the other facilities as well? Because also Mill Creek has a tennis court. So, you know, are you going to do it just for Maiden Middle, or are you going to try and do the same thing at all the other facilities?
The one thing with the one at Mill Creek, that's not really an eyesore for the community, so to speak, because it's way back in the background, correct?
Right. I
Yeah.
understand.
That's the problem with this one. It's just an eyesore for the
It's right
community.
beside a house,
Yeah, it's right beside a house and,
across from two houses.
you know, across from two houses. And, you know, I understand their situation. I think we got to protect the community as much as we can. And they're willing to help and do it for nothing.
Yeah.
Is there a problem during the school year? Is it used during the school year that
No, ma'am.
it keeps it?
No, man.
No, ma'am.
Why was there ever a tennis court built at Mill Creek? Just curious. Maidens was there when it was a high school. As a matter of fact, one of the neighbors played on that same tennis court.
Oh, I don't know, before our time.
I mean, do you know how long it's been there at Mill Creek?
It was built when they built the school, I believe, wasn't it?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I
I
think it
think
was.
so.
I think they built that when they built the school.
We also have a facilities use policy that relates to the public using our facilities. So I need to review that in light of this and maybe talk with you, Glenn, further about, we have a board meeting in another couple weeks.
Yeah,
So that'll give us time to discuss it further.
okay.
Perfect.
Okay,
I,
perfect.
I would like to make a motion to move the tennis courts at Maiden Middle to the next board meeting for further discussion.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. Need a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
Okay. Donna?
Yes, please.
Okay. Leslie?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Glenn, yes. All right, thank you. Okay, now we need a motion to go into closed session.
I so move that we go into closed session for personnel issues.
Thank you, ladies. Need a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Becky. Okay, going across. Donna?
Yes.
Leslie?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Glenn, yes. How many, do y'all need any time to look at this personnel stuff?
5-minute break.
Take a 5-minute break and we'll be back in 5 minutes. 7. Okay, we got everybody back. Okay, we now need a motion to approve our personnel recommendations and personnel consent. Put them both together.
I make a motion, we approve open session items 1 and 2.
Thank you, Kathy. Need a second. Got
Second.
Ron, got a second from Ron. Okay, going across the board. David,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Becky,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Gwen, yes. Nothing else on the agenda. We need a motion to close.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you,
I'll
Dave.
second that.
Becky, second. Going across the board. Leslie,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Ron.
No.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you. David. David,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Becky,
Yes.
Gwen, yes. Thank y'all very much. Very good meeting. We will see
Good
you.
night, everyone.
Good night,
Good night.
everybody.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Night.